So, all seriously, like, why did you get involved with me in all this Real Brits, Real Talk? You know, because I was a stranger to you that messaged you out the blue. You know, why have we got this far?
I'm always open to things. I never turn anything down straight away. So I'll always look at, I don't think that there are any meetings of people that aren't of significance, whether that be good or bad. So you obviously, I can't even remember what it was, you messaged me on TikTok or whatever.
Yeah.
And I try and respond to everybody. Like I've said before on my TikTok account, if somebody, I'll respond to them if I can. It's getting more and more difficult as my account grows. But I think you got hold of me in the early days, and it was like, you know, I like what you're talking about. I think that, you know, a lot of what you say is quite sensible. And I've got a dream of having a podcast now. Back in, you know, in the early days, I had a dream of doing certain things, and it would have been nice if I'd have reached out to somebody and they'd have given me a chance. And I always think that if I could, you know, I'm not in this for me or for money or fame or anything like that. You know, I'd love to help people out, and if I can help people out, and you know, along the way it can benefit others, then I'm open for it. And you were like, let's just do a podcast. I really want to do a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, it's exactly the same as the kind of stuff I'm doing. I like looking at podcasts. I like listening to podcasts. And it was like, yeah, I don't know how to edit. I don't know if you're going to do all of that and you're happy enough to do it. I'm happy enough to come and talk some shit for a couple of hours, you know, a few times a week, and have a laugh doing it.
Yeah, look, for me, it kind of it all started over several things really for me. Like I've never really been a big social media guy. Like you know, I'm just a general working bloke, but I don't know. Once let's say my eye to a certain few facts, it just bugged me. And I'll tell you one sentence to this day still haunts me. Someone's TikTok or I don't know, something on Facebook, but we are the only species on this planet that pays to live. And it killed me, Nick. Absolutely killed me. I was just like, it's right, you know. What other species, you know, there's got to be another way, you know. So that's what I wanted to start talking to people. So that's why I started TikToks. And then, yeah, like I say, all you, and I was like, this bloke, you know, he's got his head screwed on. He knows what he's talking about. And we was kind of both following the Nasara Jasara scandal, you know, and all that. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I could talk to this bloke, you know what I mean? And everyone around me, Nick, and I mean like everyone I spoke to about this for the first couple of months, you know, just feeling people, they just thought I was batshit crazy because I'm no social media guy. You know, what right have I got to enter this world and all that? But it's not about that for me. It's just about British people having a place to go that can make some sense out of some stuff, you know?
I don't think it necessarily needs to be just British people. I think it's just we've got to a stage now in society where we're not only having to be mindful of what we're saying, we're having to be mindful of what we're thinking. And whether that's thinking about things that are happening here at home or globally, we've got to a stage now in society where comedy's been ground down to vanilla, boring, woke, agenda-driven nonsense. Anything that is deemed coloured, you see, I'm self-censoring now because
yeah, I know, I understand.
You know, you have to be, you know, if are you racist for saying a black person or a Chinese? But do you know what I mean? You have to be so careful. But it's just got to a stage now in society where everybody's being so careful and so pussyfoot. Now, and I don't know where I watched this or heard this or saw this or formed this opinion, but racism inherently is a human trait. And that trait comes from back in thousands of years ago. Human beings from other places brought with them bacteria and illnesses that the indigenous people of that area weren't immune to. So, for example, the smallpox, so the Amazon and things like that. So I think very deep down within human being psyche is the fear of other people that don't look like us, because deep down that is a evolutionary response to not wiping out our own. Now, I understand, and I think intelligent people of today understand that with medicine and with things like that, that we don't need to worry about that anymore. But it is still part of our psyche. But it almost seems as though we're not allowed to speak about that.
Yeah, yeah. Everything gets censored now, though. Across the board, everyone feels sensitive about everything. So you have to watch what you say. And like for someone like me, who kind of speaks his mind, like I've been quite lucky because in my whole working life, I've worked with black people. I've worked with half of Europe. Everyone's had a crack at Britain, haven't they? We've had the Polish, the Slovakians, the Romanians. Over the last, me growing up, I could name a handful of countries that have come over. And at first, there's a bit of jostling in the towns, but it does seem to work. But then what's going on now is a whole different ball game. It's these boats coming in, the migrants and that. It's it's an invasion, isn't it? Really, because they're not going through any system. Back in the day, let's just say let's just travel back 300 years, and we were looking on the cliffs and we saw the Viking ships coming. We would have formed armies to fight them off. Now we're putting them in hotels. Have we civilized? Civilized, have we gone too far?
I think with anything to do, certainly with society and major sort of global issues, I think it's a pendulum, and we swing too far one way and then we correct and we swing slightly too far the other way. And I think it's a process of getting this pendulum to fit somewhere in the middle. I'm a firm believer now. Just to clear a few things up, I have spent 20 years looking into every single conspiracy theory that is going. Nobody can throw a conspiracy theory at me that I've not looked into fairly deeply. And I said on the first podcast that we did a few weeks ago that I feel like I'm out the other side of this now, because I did get caught up with the flat earth. I never for once believed that the earth was flat, but I watched these people speaking without anybody interrupting them, without them having a two-way conversation. And a lot of what they were saying, they made sound very plausible.
Yeah.
And, I can see how a lot of these things can be believed by people. But coming back to, the migrants and things like that, I think that there was a stage where governments were very anti any migration or immigration. and they went too far, and people pulled them up on that. So they've now gone too far the other way, and it's too lenient. And I think they will come back. You know, I think whether Conservatives or Labour get back into power, I think that one of their manifestos and one of the things that will get them elected is they're going to be very, very stringent on who comes into the country. And I think that will get them a lot of votes, and they'll probably go a little bit too hard. And that will then lead another party to come in and say, look, this is too harsh. You're not allowing anybody in. We're going to allow a few people in, which will get them votes. And I think as this pendulum swings one side to the other, I think eventually it sorts itself out. Do I think it's an invasion? No, I don't think it's an invasion. I see a lot of people on TikTok, and they're talking about, have a look at the boats. It's full of men, fighting age men.
Yeah.
And they say, if you're fleeing war-torn countries, you leave the men behind and you put the kids and the women on. And my response to that would be, if there was a choice between me getting on a rubber dinghy and crossing the British Channel with a very high chance of dying, would I send my kids and my wife, or would I go? And I think the answer would be I would go. So I think partly the reason why you're seeing so many young men is because that's what us men do. I would not be sending my 2 kids and wife, if I had a wife, on a dinghy across the British Channel where people are dying by the dozens. And people don't report on the people that are dying. There are people dying there. You know,
So
they
you
are
don't think
drowned.
they should be fighting for their country then? You don't think they should stay and fight for their land? And
I don't think there's a conflict as there is in the Ukraine, where there's an actual war going on that they've got to stay and fight for. I think these people, a lot of the time, are really running from poverty, and they're running from destitution and poor sanitary conditions. And they've seen an opportunity in the UK to come over here, earn some money, and send the money back to give them. Now, on the back of that destitution, I think there are a lot of grifters and a lot of freeloaders. Do I think that they're UN soldiers that are being trained on military bases in the UK? No. I don't think there's a British soldier that has got British blood running through his veins that would allow that to happen. I think there would be a military coup, and I think you would see what the Brits were about. It's easy for somebody to come onto TikTok and show a picture of boats coming across full of men and say, these are all military age men ready to fight, and that's what's going on, without there being anybody to counter that. I don't know if I'm going to be right or wrong. I don't know. But like I said, I wouldn't send my 2 kids and wife on a dinghy across the British Channel. Wouldn't do it. What you've also got to remember is it's quite expensive. So these people are obviously being trafficked by people. There are businesses. There are people running businesses. They're sending them across. I don't know what it costs. Let's say it costs $3,000. If you can muster $3,000 up on the premise that somebody's going to come over to the UK or France and be able to earn a living and send money back home, who would you send?
I would stay, to tell you the truth. If let's just say something happened in Britain, and I'd fight for my land. I'm not in the army, never been in the army or anything like that. But these men are fleeing their country. Who's going to rebuild their country then? Who's going to, because they get comfortable in the West, won't they? Well, why would you come over here, get all comfortable, and then go back to, wherever? You wouldn't, would you?
Have you gone and got your car washed recently by one of the hand car wash people?
No.
I mean, I'm up in the Midlands, and the place is rife with them. They do a fantastic job.
They are down here.
Romanian, Polish, I don't know, I don't know exactly what the nationalities are. Now, their working conditions are not good. They are working from dawn until dusk in the freezing cold, getting wet. They're probably getting paid peanuts. I'm not entirely sure they're living a life of luxury. Now, some of these getting put up in the hotels, yes. It's probably a lot better than what they are. But I do genuinely think that most of them are coming here under the pretense that they're going to be able to earn some money and send it back home. I really, really do. Now,
I
of
know a
course,
lot. I know a lot that have.
yeah,
I say, I've worked in with the Polish and Lithuanians and Romanians, and they are grafters through and through, every single one of them, and can speak multiple languages. So they're all
yeah.
bright. They can speak Russian, Lithuanian, English, a bit of French. Like 90% of them can. And they look at us English, and many of them say, "You're lazy. You just expect the world to speak your language." And we do. We are. But a lot of the world does speak English, so we're quite fortunate. But yeah, there are grafters, and some of them send their money home. I worked with a lad for 5 years, and God bless him, his missus and that are back in Poland, and he used to send his money back. And I used to say to him, like, is being away from your family worth, you know, worth it in the end? Your daughter's grown up 5 years, and you've seen her what 6 weeks of a year in 5 years. It's just, is it worth it?
And what was his response?
Well, he was a very unique Polish man, and he was very angry inside. So I think that tells me, he just wanted the best for his family, and he was good at his job. He got good money, and he sent it back. But yeah, I think deep down he hated it. But he would never say that. He does what men do. They look after their family.
Which
No
brings us
matter.
back to what we were saying. Are those boats primarily filled with males that are willing to make the trip over here, that think they're going to get free handouts and free living and free support and free phones, but have the opportunity to send money back, whether that be via gangs, drug dealing, whatever it might be? Or is the UN training soldiers up, spending millions and millions of euros and pounds per year to train these up, and sending them on rubber dinghies with the potential of them dying? If that was them, they'd do it a different way. I don't think they'd need to be sending them on rubber dinghies.
No. I understand, but I'm sure you've seen the video circling around on social media. One of them actually admitting he's a UN soldier and that he's been invited to come over. But yeah, I must admit, bringing him over on a smuggled dinghy when he's a UN soldier, that's a bit far fetched. But no one from the government rings us and lets us in on their little secrets, do they? So
No. Of course they don't. But equally, if I walked up to a bloke in the town centre and said, "Look, I'm going to give you £100 if you let me record you saying that yes, I'm a UN soldier that's been smuggled over from France,"
yeah,
and I posted that on TikTok, does that mean that that's true?
yeah, and that's the problem, isn't it? Because with social media now, you can't. Like I was saying to you before this, just before I come on, there was a live stream, bullets, tracers flying in the air, a plane flying around. What the hell's this? And it's live Israel war, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm watching it and I'm thinking, oh my God. And then all of a sudden it flashes on the ground and you see this tank, and you could see it was a game. And I was like, oh, and 30 seconds, I was all in. I was fooled until I saw the tank, and then yeah, obviously it was a game, and then everyone out. You saw the stream live just drop because everyone realised it was a game, you know. But yeah, I personally myself, I just don't understand why people do this. You know, there's so much going on in the world at the moment. I think people need more facts than they do entertainment.
But the problem is, people nowadays are only interested in likes, followers, and comments.
Yeah.
And if somebody can put video gameplay with the title Israel versus Palestine and get 10,000 likes, they're not interested in whether you know. I've made a few videos recently on TikTok talking to people about the importance of having a hook at the start of their video. And it's something that I've learned over the year. If I start my video with, "Hi, how's it going? Hope you're having a good day," they're gone. You've lost them.
Yeah.
But if I start my video with, "Here's 3 ways that you can lose 2 stone in 2 weeks and it's not going to cost you a penny," you're already engaged.
Yeah.
You're already emotionally engaged. Then I can then go on and talk about what it is. So social media has done an awful lot in the sense that you don't know what's true anymore. You really don't. So if you can watch something and look at it and go, okay, that seems plausible, but what's the opposing view of that? You know, so this guy that's telling me he's a UN soldier, what's more likely that he's a UN soldier that's been trained over in Turkey, he's been transported over the British Channel, he's still alive, and he's now admitting all of this in front of a camera that's going to be put on TV? Or is it more likely that someone's found some drunken bum on the streets, offered to buy them a bottle of vodka and say, if you say X, Y, and Z and let me film it, you got a bottle of Smirnoff for the night? And it comes back to something called Occam's razor. And Occam's razor is something I've spoken about before. And what that says is, in any situation, the most likely scenario is always the most simple.
Oh,
So
right.
if I look outside my window at night and I see strobe lights, my mind might go, that's aliens. There's aliens outside, there's a UFO, and they're going to abduct me.
Probe you.
What's more likely? There's been an interstellar spaceship that's travelled the vastness of the universe and somehow ended up on my garden and is going to be taking me. Or could it be a police helicopter? Could it be a burglar with a torchlight? Could it be a meteorite that's landed? Could it be a fire? So you go through all of the things that are the most simple explanation, and that's usually what it is. You know, if I hear something bang upstairs when there's nobody in the house, my mind might go, there's a ghost in the house. Okay, and a lot of people do that. They go straight to the most ridiculous and outlandish example of whatever it is. But then the rational brain should go, okay, what's more likely? That I'm witnessing a poltergeist or a ghost that I've never ever witnessed before, or did something fall off of a shelf? Did one of the radiators burst?
Usually my cat.
Did my cat fall onto something? If I've not got a cat, did a bird fly into a window? You know, so human beings love to sensationalize things. And I'm always trying to go, okay, my brain wants to tell me this, but my rational side is going, what's the most simple explanation? So, you know, I'm not religious at all.
No.
What's more likely that happened? A man 2,000 years ago died and broke all laws of physics, all laws of biology, and rose from the dead. The only person ever to do it, and a few people witnessed it. Or did somebody tell a porcupine 2,000 years ago that's turned into a Chinese whisper, and we're sitting here in 2023 and we've all of a sudden got this ridiculous story of a man raising from the dead? I would say that the laws of physics probably didn't bend.
Yeah,
And, you know,
I agree, but you've got to admit that some stories, like, have you ever watched Ancient Apocalypse?
yeah,
Graham? Yeah. So he talks about loads of different hidden cities all around the world, but one thing every hidden city had in common was this being, this being that came and taught them civilization and taught them, how to build and things like that. And yeah, the stories differed. Some came in from sea, some came in from air, but they were all these big giant beings, and they all, so yeah, the stories change over time, and like we could tell a story now, and I'm sure if it got picked up, it would change over 100 years. But there's always that one common factor, isn't there, in every story about the being a big person. Like for me, I'm going through a bit of a. I've always been an atheist, but I don't know. At the moment, I'm going through a bit of an unsure period of what I do actually believe in, because you hear all these different stories and that. I believe there's something spiritually out there, but the stories have got jumbled, you know?
I think
Or do you think humanity just need to believe this?
I think there's something inherently within us that has to have a belief that there is something bigger than us, because without it, we become individual units that are selfish, and as a result, the species doesn't continue, because I'm only concerned about what I'm doing right now and what I can get and what I can have. And I think religion is part of that psyche that goes, we need to band together, we need to have a common set of rules and things that we align with in order to progress as a species. So I believe in something that I can't explain, and within that, I'm going to if you take religion out of it and say let's not call it religion. How many people play Warhammer?
Yeah. I see where you're going with this,
and they've all got that in common. And then how many people do CrossFit? And they've all got that in common, and they've got that common community in society. And I think that deep within us, we understand that as a group, there's more of an opportunity for us to procreate and develop. And I think religion, look at football teams. Why would I hate somebody that supports Derby County? Well, because I'm a Forest fan.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that. But there are times when a Forest fan, or so what are you, Tottenham?
Yeah, Spurs fan, yeah.
So you hate Arsenal fans, yeah?
Yeah, Gooners, yeah.
But the only reason you hate them is because they prefer a badge and 11 blokes that run around kicking a bag of wind around than you do. But
hate's a strong word, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Correct. And it's this idea of aligning with certain people that agree with you and feeling protected against people that disagree with you. And I think that's an inherent trait of human beings. And I think religion is absolutely necessary. I think that if we wiped out humanity again, religion would be another thing. Yeah. It wouldn't be the same religion. It wouldn't be Jesus. It wouldn't be Moses. It wouldn't be Allah. But it would be we're here for a bigger purpose, and we're going to do things to make sure that we please that person, which is going to stop us from hurting and killing and being horrible to each other. because we don't know what's out there.
Yeah.
And because we don't know, we're scared of it.
Yeah, we fear it, yeah.
So yes, I do think that there's probably something bigger than us. I don't think that the universe is as binary as we think it is. But I think religion is absolutely one of the only reasons why we are here today talking to each other on an iPhone. Without that, we wouldn't be here.
See, like, I hate that word religion because I feel like the whole spiritual thing of humanity, it started off well, like most things. It started off with people felt good about it, and then some smart aleck with a bit of gold thought, I can take this to the next stage. I can make money from this. And it got twisted. And then this person thought, well, I can make my own religion. And I'll make money. And that got twisted, you know. And now all these religions are just whirling around and no one really knows. Like, apart from the Muslim, I think they are devoted, out of all the religions you see, the Muslim community are more devoted to their religion. You know, some obviously way too much, but the majority of them they're just religious people, where Christianity in this country for sure has gone, hasn't it? You know, I don't know many Christians anymore. Not really devout Christians.
Here's an outlandish theory for you then, whether you agree with it or not. I think that one of the reasons why the world is anti-Islam is because Islam is or the only belief system that doesn't condone lending money for interest.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, so it is against their religion to lend money and charge interest.
Wow.
Now, every single country that the US and the UK has gone to war with, they have converted it into a debt-based society with a central bank. So all we've got left now without central banks is Iran, Egypt, Afghanistan's gone now, Iraq's gone now, Syria's gone now, North Korea. So
that's why they want Russia as well, didn't they?
And Russia as well.
Yeah, Orthodox.
So, you know, I think Jesus said in the Old Testament, I'm not entirely sure if it was the Old Testament or the New Testament, but one of the things that he said was, we have to get rid of the bankers, the people that are collecting the money, charging the money, putting people into poverty. He went and turned over the tables, didn't he? And I don't know. I've not read the Bible for a long time, but that was the whole concept, and that is one of the, you know. And I'm sure if somebody's watching this now, they'll point me out, because I'm not 100% of and things like that, but I'm pretty sure that the Muslim faith is absolutely against a debt-based borrowing money and paying interest. So they, and I'm a firm believer, and I've always said this, I said this on the last podcast, the conspiracy that we all need to be looking at is money.
Yeah.
Not whether the earth's flat, not whether Nasara Jasara is real, not whether the lizards are in the, it's money. It's bankers controlling money and charging interest and enslaving every government on the planet and every person under that government with a debt-based economy. And that is it. And I'm a firm believer that one of the reasons why they're going after these Muslim nations is because they want them to be working on a debt-based currency. It's not the governments, it's not the armies, it's the bankers. It's the people that control the money.
You know, because, like, you know, we go on about the West, you know, like especially America, you know, best country in the world. But then you kind of look at what Saudi Arabia are doing at the moment, and they're a whole different level, them boys, aren't they? What they're doing over in their country at the moment, you know, it's amazing. and that should be us. If we're the big boys, the top dogs, why aren't we building cities like they are building?
Because they've got something that underpins their monetary system, which is worth something, which is oil.
Oil, yeah. Well,
we don't have that.
Well, we just
but we don't.
We
sold it all
willy-nilly, don't we? Just
correct.
a big machine in an empty hole.
Correct. And so they've got something that underpins it. They've got something that the West wants, and as a result, they call the shots. And yeah, I agree with you. You know, they do an awful lot of things right. They do some things wrong, but that's just human nature, isn't it? And it's you know, what is right and wrong. I'm sure in 1940 in Germany, a lot of the Germans thought that what they were doing was right. We thought it was wrong. So, you know, what is right and wrong, it depends on who's saying the narrative and who is calling the shots, and what the media at the time, what line they're towing. So, you know, it's easy for us to sit here and go, oh, you know, their human rights policy is terrible, and, you know, their rights against gays and this and the other is terrible. But that's only because that's the narrative that we've been spun. You know, they're doing an awful lot of things right. And, you know, there's a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of people I know that have moved to Dubai and said it's the greatest place that they've ever lived.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing all the social media of people just leaving their wallets and, you know, a collection of stuff, like thousands of pounds worth of stuff at a cafe. I'll just go off for 4 hours. I know it'd be safe. The King of Dubai can walk around and everyone's like, hello, sir. How are you? Could you see Sunak walking through London and people walking up to him, you know? And like, you know, I'll bring up Trump, for instance. He can pack out a 90,000 seat stadium like nearly every day of the week in different states. The Sunak can't do that. No politician I know in Britain could do that. But my TikTok, Real Brits, Real Talk, that's the kind of questions I ask on it. And I put a picture up of Tommy Robinson and said, should this man be in charge of our borders? Now, I'd say 70%, 97% of the people that have seen that post have wanted him in charge of our borders. They love him. Would you have him?
No.
No?
No.
Have him in charge of our borders?
No. I mean,
he's been dealt a rough hand, Nick. You've got to admit.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah, he has.
What his country's done to him, I think, disgusting.
Yeah. I think. But he's a social media character, and to put him in charge of the borders is like putting me in charge of air traffic control at East Midlands Airport. You know, with all the will in the world, and
planes are coming down.
There has to be a set of skills and standards and protocols that, you know, and I don't think, you know, it's easy to say let's put a celebrity or let's put somebody that everybody on social media is banding round in charge. It would be an absolute catastrophe from top to bottom, and you know, and I think that's why certain people get into positions of power, because becoming, you know, being the prime minister for all of Rishi Sunak's downsides, could you imagine how fucking difficult that job would be?
I must admit, I have thought about it quite a lot, and but when I go through the stages of what I would do, I turn into a dictator. I literally do turn into a dictator. As much as I've got my country's best intentions, I know there's going to be a portion of people that are going to fight me. And I'm that kind of person that would go, not on my watch. You know what I mean? I would stop them straight away. No, this is how it's going to be done. And I would turn into a dictator. I would.
I mean, it's so as my TikTok channel's grown, I still get loads of hate, and in the early days, I would block them.
Yeah.
I'd be like, my TikTok channel, you can't say that. I'm going to block you. And it's taken me a long time and a lot of soul searching to go, hang on a second. Just because this person doesn't agree with me, they've not said anything that is personally insulting. They've not said anything that's racially abusive. So therefore, I shouldn't be blocking them.
Yeah.
And in the early days, it was easy to block them. And you've disagreed with me and you've called me an idiot, or, you're low IQ, block.
Yeah.
And it felt really good. Really, really good.
That's the cancel culture for you.
Correct. And now I don't. I mean, I don't know if you saw a couple of videos that I posted yesterday. I'd got some, I don't know whether it was a troll or whatever, and it was somebody that was coming on and really giving it some and calling people out. And I put a poll out there. I said, look, you guys decide, do I block this person or not? Because although what they were saying I didn't like, they are absolutely entitled. And going back to what you've said, could you imagine how difficult it would be in a position of such power to not become a tyrant?
Yeah, I would. I definitely would, 100%. Like my first thing would be, I'd bring every British troop back to this country, and we would start from the tip of Scotland, and we would work our way right down to the bottom of Britain. And if you did not have a British passport, you better have a bloody good reason why not. You better produce a British birth certificate, because if not, you're going to go into a holding cell. And if we can't find out who you are, you're gone. You're out of this country. I would, from tip to toe. That would be my first thing.
Does that not sound like 1944 Germany?
Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying to you. I would literally turn into a dictator overnight. And even though, like, in my heart, I'm just trying to solve a problem. And then I would take it further than that, Nick. I would say to the country, right, for 5 years, no one is in and no one is out. If you want to go on holiday, we have plenty of beautiful places in this country that you can go on holiday. So until our migrant problem and we've got a handle on all that, we're just circulate the money in our own country for 5 years and work out our new system. But until then, no one in, no one out. That's dictator.
What would you respond to that if somebody said that to you?
Well, I don't like authority, Nick. That's my problem.
So Rishi Sunak.
I would actually agree with him. If he said that,
he's got his British passport, and he's now said to you, you are not allowed to go on holiday for 5 years. You're not allowed out of the country. You're not allowed to buy anything that's outside of this economy. Nobody's allowed to come in. The borders are closed. What would you say to that?
I'd say, what are we getting out of it then? Are we going to sort out the drug problem in this country?
Would you?
Are we going to sort the homeless? Yeah, I would say to him, if we're benefiting, if all the money that is going in this country now is going to be dispersed and we're going to get the homeless off the streets, and I could see year after year, that's changing, this is changing. We're cleaning up London, for instance, because London's a war zone at the moment, isn't it? So we're cleaning that up, and I could see visibly, our country is turning a corner. Then, but if I get to 2.5 years, and everything's still the same and nothing's going on, then yeah, we're going to have to rethink it or do something. But while that money is coming into our country, I would deal with the homeless. I would try and deal with mental health. You know, this is the big things in our country that we need. That's what I'd concentrate on.
Is that not communism?
Sort of is. That's why I keep saying, bro, I'd turn into a dictator overnight. I literally would. Like, yeah. Like farmers, I would say to them, like, you know, grow. We can supply this country. You know, I would help the farmers, the NHS. I'd turn that around. You know, all our money would be NHS, like fire brigade, army, police. I'd make these all jobs that are well paid and our kids want a career in, or you know, want to look at. You know, my missus is a nurse, yeah, so she works with a lot of overseas nurses and that. That more overseas nurses are coming all the time. So where's that leave these young girls that are leaving school and that? You know, there's no. I suppose I'll try and bring a bit of pride and a bit of focus to our young as well. You know, try and get into a decent trade. Try and make wages worth it again. You know, just try and build Britain back up to some kind of standard, while keeping the door shut on the rest of the world for a while.
But what you're describing there is communism. It's absolutely what every communist society starts out with. And the idea of communism, and Karl Marx said, the idea of communism is exactly that, a level playing field where the problem with communism is you're dealing with human beings. And human beings, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah, and that's where democracy comes in. The problem is we don't have a real democracy. That's the issue. You know, I can't speak for the UK, but are the US voting systems rigged? It's not 0% that it isn't.
No, it definitely is.
It's not 0%. You know, some people that's an outlandish conspiracy theorist would say it's 90% rigged. Somebody that's probably a little bit more level-headed might say it's 5% rigged, but it isn't 0.
No.
So therefore, the issue is democracy. It isn't democracy. If it's rigged even 1%, that means that the powers that be have got the power to sway things the way that they want it to go, and that isn't democracy. But the problem with communism is it doesn't work because you're dealing with human beings. You're dealing with human beings, and it doesn't work. You know, 1940s Germany proved it doesn't work. Venezuela proves it doesn't work. Cuba proves that it doesn't work. The idea is fantastic. And, you know, having these discussions, it just shows you the flaws that human beings have, because we have a narrative, we have a set of things that we want. And you've just said, you know, you've openly said it. I would be a dictator, and it would be less than a decade before genocide was caused, because a group of people disagreed with you. They didn't want to work anymore. Fuck you, I'm not doing this anymore for peanuts. My kids aren't. And all of a sudden, it would be divided genocide. You know, so it's such a difficult job. We have to fix the supply of money. That's the root of all problems. Every election, every pharmaceutical company, every car company, every weather station, everything ultimately is bowing down to the people that pay them. And if I'm paying you and I say to you, do you know what? I want you to go onto a podcast and I want you to say this, this, and this. And if you don't do it, I'm not going to pay you anymore. You do it. I'm self-censoring now. Self-censoring. You know, I've got an all right TikTok channel. It's paying me money now.
Yeah.
You know, I've managed to pay some bills with the money that TikTok is bringing in. As a result of that, I'm now cautious of things that I'm going to say and comment because I don't want that to be taken away from me.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm now a slave to the money. So I can't come on there and say, I think, because in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, that's going to happen. So we don't need the thought police out there. We don't need the police knocking on my front door saying, you've put a social media post out there now, because the money's doing that.
Yeah.
And the money has always done that. If you can't afford, you're not going to go and tell your boss to fuck off, because if you do and he sacks you, you can't pay your mortgage, which means your kids haven't got a roof to live in. So you refrain yourself from saying that if you had a job. And I know you've not got a job.
I just walked out the system. Yeah, I was just about
there you go. Yes. And wouldn't that be a fantastic thing to do?
Oh, yeah.
But the money system is the problem. It's rigged. It's bankers making bankers rich. You know, people don't realise that the Federal Reserve is a private bank. There was a case not long ago where somebody, I can't remember who it was, journalist I think it was, they went under the Freedom of Information Act and wanted to get things from the Federal Reserve, and it came back and said, you can't get anything from us because we are a private entity, and that only exists in government domains. Yeah. So the Federal Reserve is a private bank with shareholders that's only job is to make sure their shareholders get more and more money at the end of each year as dividends. That's it. So once you've got somebody controlling that, everything else is irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who's in power. Doesn't matter whether it's the reason why Trump was so incendiary, because he doesn't need the money. He's not being paid off. He doesn't need to be the CEO of Pfizer after his 4-year stint. And they saw that as a threat. Yeah. Now, has he got his flaws? Of course he is. He's bombastic. He's a male chauvinist. He's probably misogynistic. He's probably racist. I don't know. He's of that. He's of that era.
Yeah, that's it.
Isn't it? He is.
Yeah.
But with all of that,
I love him. Don't you think we're in trouble with Brits?
Would you leave him? Would you leave him in a room with your daughter for 2 hours?
Yeah, I would. Look, he's a man because he's a man's man.
I wouldn't.
He said a few things,
and I wouldn't leave Biden either.
No, I wouldn't leave Biden. No, definitely not. But
Trump,
I trust Trump. He's all right. So do you think then the West is in trouble financially with BRICS? No, you think we'll be all right?
Why will we be all right?
Well, if the world stops using the dollar, it looks like it's going to happen, pal. More countries are joining BRICS.
But then what happens?
Well, the dollar won't be worth as much as it will fold. No, you just reckon
they will eradicate any country through weapons and war that even once they are the most powerful military force on the face of the planet.
Right, so BRICS, for anyone that don't know out there, yeah? So it's Brazil, Russia, India, China. Yep. South Africa. Now, a load of other African nations are all lining up to sign up. So let's just say 80% of Africa continent, yeah? That's a lot of people to take on. And so that would basically mean World War III. The Americans would have to start World War III to stop BRICS from happening.
BRICS has been around for decades.
The idea of it is...
No. BRICS has been around for decades. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It's been around for decades. The only reason it's starting to rear its head is because there's been some apparently underground talks between some of the Saudis and the Arabs and whatnot. World War III is happening right now.
Well, they say it's the beginning of it, don't they? They say this is.
It's been happening for a decade. It's not being fought with weapons. It's being fought with money.
Yeah.
It's money. And the Americans control the worldwide economy. If they want to shut off a nation and suffocate it, they'll do that.
Don't you think that's
and they'll do it,
though, Nick? Don't you think that's like they've kind of made the world believe that? Like, no,
Nope.
You really think that America's that powerful?
Yeah. Yes.
I think
Yes.
they're more influence, more bark than bite.
Look at the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yeah, but they had to sneak behind back doors to do that, didn't they? It's not like
they blew it up.
Yeah, they blew it up. But they
and what were the ramifications? What were the ramifications? Nothing.
Nothing yet.
Nothing. Yes, they are that powerful.
Yeah.
They absolutely are that. Yeah, 100%. And it doesn't need to be intercontinental ballistic missiles and troops on the ground. That is last resort.
Yeah.
They will suffocate any nation that tries to do it.
Oh, look at Libya now.
I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime.
No. Oh, I hope not. I hope there's
no
World War III ever. No one wants that. But
no.
Yeah, it's scary times out there, isn't it? Really.
It is if you watch TikTok.
Not just TikTok though, is it? It's everywhere.
So let's imagine for a second that for the next month you didn't watch any TV and didn't have your phone with you, and you just went about your life. How different would it be?
I just wonder. I'm a very curious person, so I'll just be wondering all the time.
You are. Your life would continue. You'd pick your kids up from school. You'd meet your wife. You'd cook your dinner. You'd do everything that you're doing. Nothing would happen. So I didn't know that Alex Ferguson's wife died last week. I didn't know. And when somebody said to me, "Oh, you didn't know?" I was like, no, because I don't watch the news. I don't put the TV on. I didn't see it on TikTok. I worked. I did my bits and bobs. I didn't see it. So in my world, that never happened.
Yeah.
In somebody else's world, that was the worst thing that could have possibly happened, and they're living it. I wasn't. So when you switch the TV off and switch the newspapers off and switch the radio off, life's the same as it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. I understand.
It's probably the same as it's going to be in 20 years' time. So I don't know. I don't buy into all this.
So you think people should just stay away from it all and not worry, or do you think people should get involved? Do you think people should talk about this kind of stuff?
I think if I can't affect anything, then I'm wasting valuable time and energy when I could be spending that on doing something that I could affect. I can't affect what's going on in Israel. Whether I'm scared about it, whether I'm not scared about it, whether my kids are or not, there's nothing I can do about it. So is there really any point in me worrying about it and switching the TV on and sitting there and worrying and, talking about this and what if this happens and what if that happens? I can't do anything about it. That's completely out of my remit. So I'm that's what my TikTok channel's all been about. I'm all for making the best of yourself. Focus on the things that you've got an impact on. If you're interested in looking at Nasara Jasara and it's piquing your interest, great. Everybody loves a fairy tale. Everybody loves a happy ending. But if that's taking time away from you doing things and spending energy on things that are going to affect your life directly, I don't know if it's worthwhile. But then again, if we don't talk about these things out in the open, you do get the dictatorships that push a narrative. But it's I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I don't know.
It's
And I
better
think
for
that
people to talk. There's no talk.
it is if it's constructive, you know. But
that's what I mean. Talking, like we are now.
me and you talking right now about what's going on in Israel. I said this to a friend today that I met at lunchtime. If I went and spoke to somebody that is a Palestinian, they would give me 100 reasons why I should hate the Israelis. If I went and spoke to somebody that was an Israeli, they would give me 100 reasons why I should hate the Palestinians. And both of their arguments would be absolutely from the heart and believable. Who's right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it would be hard. You'd have to understand. Like, I know nothing about that part of the country, really. I'm sure they had their thoughts on us and are completely wrong. Like, I'm sure every country in the world has got its own what word am I looking for? Narrative about each other. We think America is very brass and very cocky, very loud, But I bet there's millions of Americans out there that are quiet, quiet, normal people. I think we have to stop looking at borders so much and just start looking at humanity a bit more.
I agree. I absolutely agree.